Welcome to the Giles Files, and my name is Nancy Giles. Producer Nancy Wyatt and I took a road trip last summer from New York to Chicago by train. Woo, it was fantastic. Man, we loved it. And my good friend Bob Johnston is a lifetime train lover. He's a correspondent for Trains Magazine, and he's been writing for them since 1991. So we wanted to know more about train travel and to get some recommendations on great train adventures. And Bob knows trains like nobody's business. So buckle up. You are about to be schooled. And don't shush us, because we ain't hanging out in the quiet car, okay? And Bob, you know, because we've known each other a long time, I had been dying for years to do a big train trip, a cross-country one. And finally, I got halfway across the country with my friend Nancy Wyatt, and it rocked our world.
It was wonderful. It's so nice to slow down. I discovered music on my Spotify I don't think I ever would have listened to. And I just loved keeping the bed on the upper berth that runs the length of the window. And I kept the curtains open all night and just watched everything go by with this music. It was wonderful.
Everybody is so friendly and so nice and personable, you know?
Right. And I think, as I recall, Nancy, you liked the soap too, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't steal one of those little bottles, did you?
I didn't steal, but I was impressed. Well, okay, maybe I did, but I was impressed. No, it was just, there's so many little details that were just fantastic.
And for those who love form and function, as I do, the pull down sink and the way you flip it up in the water drains and the bars that you can climb up to the upper berth. I mean, everything is just so well thought out.
Isn't it great?
Just experiencing that was fun. And not to get too, but you have your own bathroom.
Which,
when I first walked in there, I said, oh, this isn't happening. You know, but then you get to a point where you have to use it. And it was wonderful.
It was, because it's your own personal, I mean, it was a little hard on my hips.
But the flush was very forceful. I felt confident that everything exited the room.
Right. Sanitized.
Sanitized. You know me.
So I don't want to burst your bubble, so to speak here.
Here we go.
They have 25 new Viewliner sleepers that have been delivered over the last couple of years, but they were manufactured without the toilet in the room. They have a pull-down sink, but the bathrooms are down the hall.
Riding the rails, riding the rails, wheels of steel again rolling through, pulling cars for passengers like you. Everybody ought to ride a train. Get on board, they're outward bound again, riding the rails. Riding the rails.
You know, I think that's one of the big advantages of train travel is that you don't have to worry about the weather. Somebody else is worrying about that, especially we go into the winter season here. If you're on a train, it's kind of cozy when you're going through the snowstorm. I mean, I think one of the most exciting trips that I ever took was leaving Chicago on the Cardinal, which is a train that runs from Chicago to Washington by way of Indianapolis, Cincinnati, and West Virginia. We went through Cincinnati at about 1:30 in the morning, and it was a driving rainstorm. I was in my upper berth on one of those Viewliner sleepers, and the rain was just pounding against the window. And there was lightning, just, you know, and we went over the Ohio River. It was one of the most exciting events ever. You know, was I worried about anything? Absolutely not. You know, I didn't, maybe the engineer was worried, but, you know, it didn't matter. I mean, things were fine.
I did see a documentary on the way the tracks switch off so that trains don't collide. They get to one point where it's almost like a fork in the road, and the train either has to go this way or this way. Computer-wise, the tracks shift to send the train in the right direction. That was kind of scary.
I mean, they have a new safety device, basically technology called positive train control. Has been mandated since 2008. There was a horrible accident out in California, which precipitated that, where there was some guy was texting.
You mean the guy that was supposed to be running the train?
Yes,
was
that's
texting?
right. That's right. Unfortunately, he didn't pay attention to the signals. The signal was red, and a freight train crashed into him. But they mandated now. So basically, if you're going too fast, or if you have a red signal or something like that, if you don't react, the train will stop.
Yeah.
It will be stopped for you.
Good.
Excellent.
But basically, it's very safe. And that's why when you're, going through a snowstorm or a big rainstorm, you feel pretty safe on the train. And I wouldn't feel so safe if I were driving.
Or I wouldn't feel so safe in an airplane with that
Yes,
kind of
exactly.
weather issue.
Well, we're
going
above
on.
it, but
Yeah.
you still have to land. That's true.
That's right.
Well, that's it.
right.
Because I remember going around O'Hare, let's see, I think maybe 15 times coming in from Europe on this plane. And, when the pilot gets on and he says, well, if we don't make it this time, we got to go to Indianapolis because we're going to run out of fuel.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'd rather not have that, all that graphic.
I don't want to hear that. I never want to hear that.
Attention, please. New York Central Railroad, train number 25.
Give me a bedroom on the 20th century, please.
Leaving in 5 minutes.
Yes, I know. Could you make it snap in?
I think they're all sold out.
Sold out?
You can always go coach.
No, I can't do that. What time is the next train?
Nothing till 10. You're in a hurry, huh?
Which one was your favorite, or which one do you think would be the best for our next train travel?
Well, I really like the California Zephyr, which is Chicago to the Bay Area. Everything east of Chicago, with the exception of the train between Chicago and Washington, has the Viewliner sleeping cars, which have those windows on the upper berth. They are absolutely my favorite for exactly the reasons that you have talked about. That's the only place that you can sleep, have the window right there, wide open all the time, and just enjoy the night, enjoy the sunrise, the dusk. The Western trains, they have double-decker superliner cars. So they have both coaches, the seats upstairs, and there's some down below, and they're sleeping car compartments. But the sleeping compartments are stacked on top of each other, so that they can get more people on the train. What you lose out on is the upper berth headroom. You can lay down in the upper berth, but you can't sit up in the upper berth, and there's no window up there.
What?
So,
forget
yeah,
that.
I know.
That's an atrocity.
I know. It's an outrage.
It's an outrage.
No, that's one of the coolest things. You're so right. And in the roomettes, I mean, you've got that upper berth, which is great. And then you can go back downstairs. And if you want to be on the quote unquote lower berth, you get the same wonderful windows and expanse as well. I'm 6'1", and it is so painful to be on an airline unless someone else is paying for business class or first class or whatnot. On the train, just to be able to stretch your legs and stand up, it meant so much.
It's better than first class.
I know.
On a plane.
Even on the Western trains, the better part of that is that the scenery is great. You get 2 mountain ranges when you're going west. You get leaving Denver and then leaving Reno. basically. You go into first the Rockies, and then the next day you go into the Sierra Nevada mountains. And they have a sightseer lounge car on that train, which means it has glass tops, and you can see the rock ledges above the train. And
that's the Chicago to the Bay Area train.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I think that's going to be the next one, Nance.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, that's good, but I also like the Coast Starlight Seattle to Los Angeles. Very scenic through the Oregon mountains, also along the coast south of Santa Barbara. The Salinas Valley and all of that. I think number 3 would be the Empire Builder, which is the Chicago to Seattle or Portland train. It goes through Montana, North Dakota, Minnesota, and hugs the Mississippi River for about 120 miles or so.
Down in the railroad yards, his train is being showered, soaped, and steamed all at the same time. Before every trip, passenger cars are pulled through an automatic washing machine where they're scrubbed and polished until they shine.
We can't forget the train that runs across Canada, Via Rail Canada, which is Canada's version of Amtrak, has a train that goes from Toronto to Vancouver. And that is a historic train that is running with the same equipment that was built in 1955. And I would highly recommend that. It has the glass top dome cars. It has the same type of sleeping cars that you would have seen on in the movie North by Northwest.
I'd invite you to my bedroom if I had a bedroom.
A roomette?
Nothing, not even a ticket. I've been playing hide and seek with the Pullman conductor ever since the train left New York.
How awkward for you.
Yes, isn't it? No place to sleep.
I have a large drawing room all to myself.
That doesn't seem quite fair, does it?
Drawing room E, car 3901.
Such a nice number.
These are vintage cars. They also have the old upper and lower berths on these trains.
Oh, man.
With their seats in the daytime, and then at night there's curtains into the hallway. That was very interesting. I mean, it was like, and then, there was somebody I didn't know who was in the upper berth.
Right, it's like Sun Like It Hot. All of my
I know, I was just thinking
That's right.
Hey, honey, what's up? Party in upper 7. Oh, party. I'll get some cheese and crackers. I'll get a cocktail shaker. You get a corkscrew. Okay. Hey, Rosella, there's a party in upper 7. Yeah? You got a corkscrew? No, but Stella has. Well, go get some paper cups. Okay. Hey, there's a party in upper 7. Party in upper 7. Oh, yes. Party in upper 7. Here's the vermouth. This is a private party. Will you please go away? I put some cheese and crackers in case anybody gets hungry. What is 10 cups will be enough? Party for two. 10 cups. What is... Please, girls, will you please stop this?
The train ideas I've had have all come from the movies. North by Northwest, Some Like It Hot, 20th Century. That's my dream fantasy of train travel. So to know you can do that on that Canadian line, woohoo!
Yeah, how many days and nights?
It's 4 nights and 4 days. Like many U.S. routes, there's trouble with delays with freight traffic and things like that. I think you might have experienced some of that.
Only a little.
But it
only
wasn't,
a little.
It wasn't annoying or anything.
Because we had our rooms, we had our views.
Exactly. Well, that's right. And when you've got that, it's not that big of a deal.
We had sorry, I was going to say, we had our rum and Coke.
Oh, yes. And we had our Garrett's popcorn.
And our Garrett's popcorn that we bought. We were happy.
Right.
All aboard. You're on berth 7 and 7A.
So, Bob, on that Canadian coast to coast, you're on one train. You don't have to change trains or anything like that. It's a continual thing. So in our country, do we have an equivalent coast to coast?
Between 1993 and 2005, the Sunset Limited, which had been running from New Orleans to Los Angeles, was extended to Miami. But after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, Amtrak management decided they would not start it up again.
But that doesn't exist any longer?
No. Well, no, I mean, you can take trains You just have to make your own arrangements. The trains to New Orleans from New York and the train from Los Angeles to New Orleans both exist, but it's different equipment. Superliners on the Western train and the Viewliners on the Eastern train, they have to have the single level cars in the East because of all the tunnels in the Northeast.
Oh, I see. So you really have to map it out. You'd have to figure out like New
Well,
York,
just find a place to stay in New
Chicago.
Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be hard.
Yeah.
No.
You got to kind of know what you're doing in terms of planning all that out.
There's an outfit that's run by a third-party travel agency called Amtrak Vacations. If you want to do a custom itinerary, I want to stay here for a couple of days, they will be able to help you do that.
Yeah, that is good to know.
That's good information. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You would think there could be like a cottage industry for train people of travel agents that's specified in, in train travel, specialized in train travel.
And there have been a few through the years, but I'm not aware of anybody right now.
The attendant tells Bob that the observation car is 3 cars farther back. On his way, Bob sees the dome car, a car with a roof of glass. Through the glass dome, the passengers can watch the landscape all around them. Here is the observation car. Now Bob understands why it's at the rear end of the train.
I also like the scenery along the, in Connecticut. If you're going between New York and Boston, I don't know why anybody would not take that route through. Acela goes there, Northeast Regional goes there, but it's so scenic there in Connecticut. Once you get past New Haven, it's just a really, really interesting. You go right along the shore a lot of times, whether it's Acela or Northeast Regional.
That sounds like a nice fall trip.
It does.
And it's painless too. Downtown to downtown, get off at Back Bay Station in Boston, walk over to Charlie's hash house and get some turkey hash.
That sounds good.
Oh man, Bob, you could write the book about train travel and all that local places to go. I'm just putting that little idea in your brain if you wanted to.
There's another thing. Going to the West Coast, there are 2 major old hotels. One of them is in Las Vegas, New Mexico, and the other one is in Winslow, Arizona. These are old Harvey House hotels that were built by Fred Harvey. You remember the Harvey Girls? These are
that movie, sure.
The trains would stop. They would stop for meals. These were old Spanish-style hotels that had been revived. And the thing to do is to take the Southwest Chief, if you're going from Chicago to Los Angeles, stop overnight at the Hotel La Castaneda at Las Vegas, New Mexico. You can walk right from the platform over to the hotel. It's maybe about 50 feet away. And the train station in Winslow is the hotel. You can stay there for a day or 2 days. Again, highly recommended.
The engineer gets the go-ahead signal. He opens the throttle.
How does one become an engineer?
Well, you apply. I did a story one time on somebody who was working telemarketing, and somebody said, "Do you really want to do this for the rest of your life?" And then he thought, "Well, no, I really don't." So he went on to the Amtrak website and applied, and they're looking for people now. Okay.
Oh, really?
So he applied, and normally you go in, you get trained on rules first as a conductor. And when you get certified, you have to go through a training course. First, they test your aptitude, obviously. You go through a training course, and then you become an assistant conductor on a certain piece of railroad. And that's what he did. Then he took the engineer's test, and then he started becoming, trained for an engineer. So it was I would say about 1.5 years between the time that he applied and the time he became an engineer. He just happened to hit it right.
The engineer watches every road sign carefully. The safety of the passengers is in his hands.
The engineering test, is that like getting your first class license, or is it more understanding the mechanics of the locomotive?
You have to know everything mechanically about the locomotive, but being an engineer is route specific. If they were blindfolded, and if suddenly somebody took their blindfold off en route, part of their testing is that they have to know exactly where they are at that particular time. What milepost, what's the speed restriction, even with all these safety devices. But they're not qualified generally out of their district.
Hello, everyone. I wouldn't have missed this for the world. It's an honor to celebrate Amtrak's 50th anniversary. I look forward to a bright future for all American rail.
Is Joe Biden, would you call him the most train-friendly president we've had in a long time? I mean, he has that reputation of taking the train home every night when he was, early on when he was in the Senate.
Yeah, I would definitely say so, because he understood, he could see the people that were riding with him every day, not only the passengers, but also the crew. So that's where he developed a lot of his knowledge.
In my American Jobs Plan, I propose spending $10 billion a year on passenger rail and freight rail. And I've come to see that Amtrak doesn't just carry us from one place to another. It opens up enormous possibilities. It's going to provide jobs. It will also accommodate jobs. And what this means is that towns and cities that have been in danger of being left out and left behind will be back in the game. It means families don't have to sacrifice the cost of living or quality of access to opportunity that sometimes only occurs if they live in a big city. We have a huge opportunity here to provide fast, safe, reliable, clean transportation in this country.
He understands the value of that particular travel mode. And there are many politicians who may not get that, and especially from the presidential ranks. I mean, there's a train called the Texas Eagle, and Al Gore thought it was saving the Texas Eagle was an environmental thing, but it was really, it was.
Oh no!
This
he
is
thought it was an actual
90s.
eagle. He thought it was an eagle.
He thought, yeah, it was some kind of a strange eagle. The government has supplied funding to air traffic control, $60 billion last year to highways. And that's why this $66 billion to passenger rail over 5 years is such a big deal. And that's what happened in the infrastructure bill. And the interesting thing there is that it comes with with some strings attached for Amtrak, that they have to improve their service. They have to improve their dining.
I see.
So they're trying to figure out a way to bring this back. They need the personnel, which they had laid off. They need to hire them back.
Will this infrastructure money that's targeted toward rail travel, could that help that situation?
That's a good question, because the problem is it still will depend on the will of management to say, let's fix this now. And it's going to help us not only increase the customer experience, but also help us make more revenue. They have the opportunity to use some of this money to bring cars back online, to hire people, and so on and so forth. The biggest problem with the infrastructure bill right now, though, is that for the money to be used, the Federal Railroad Administration has to write the rules on which it's going to be dispersed. And this is not something that they are really equipped to do. They have to kind of staff up to do that. That's the main issue at this particular point for a lot of expansion of service.
This is no ordinary train. This is the legendary Orient Express, witness to many strange adventures and foreign intrigues.
What about train travel in Europe or other countries?
I've ridden trains in Europe, in Japan, and China. And one of the interesting trends in Europe right now is the fact that they are bringing back sleeping cars on routes that were discontinued maybe 5 years ago. And one of the reasons is because in Europe, the funding is a little different. They have invested in high-speed trains. In France, beginning in 1983, in Germany, shortly thereafter. There's, of course, the Channel Tunnel. Britain has always been very strong investing in trains. So now they're bringing back in Austria. There's a firm in Switzerland that is running these trains all over Europe right now. They're doing all these city pairs now. Moscow, all of the Eastern European countries. There's really been a resurgence in overnight travel over there. When you're on a high-speed system such as the TGV out of Paris, you're going 186 miles an hour on the main stem between Paris and Lyon. Now, when you go down to Bordeaux or you go down to Marseille, once you get into the local area, let's say between Marseille and Nice on the coast, the trains go a lot slower, but you're still on this fast train. So you get down there in 3 hours or so. And by the time, if you were going to the airport and going through all of that rigmarole, getting to the airport as opposed to leaving from downtown, those are things that people say, well, why should I do that? Why am I going to make 3 changes just to get on an airplane? Those things are all possible over here if there's sufficient investment.
We found a YouTube video of sort of luxury travel, train travel in Europe.
Yeah, it was spectacular.
I mean, these rooms.
I just think, yeah, well, you know what? I'm sorry. It's overpriced. You know, you can still experience what you experienced between New York and Chicago. I don't know what the fare is. It's the last time I checked, which was a couple of years ago, it was just exorbitant. I mean, it's all nice. There's some other trains, South Africa, that are also interesting, but I just wouldn't spend the money.
Are there some historic lines, though, that you would go on, or trips where you would go on where you're actually traveling on the older trains and are experiencing the older sleeping car arrangements and things like that?
There are some up in Scotland. I mean, one of my favorites in England is there's an overnight train that's just been refurbished with new equipment between London and Glasgow and Edinburgh. It's an overnight train, and it has a dining car and new sleeping cars. The thing about in Japan is like between Kyoto and Tokyo, it's like trains run about every 12 minutes. Some ridiculous.
My God.
Yeah, I mean, just go figure. You know.
Oh my gosh, we gotta take a page from how they do things over there. But in the meantime, thanks to you, we can really enjoy what we've got. So, bless your heart.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Happy travels.
Well, that's our show. Thanks to our train guru, Bob Johnston. We love you, Bob. Check out his articles in Trains magazine at trains.com. And thanks to Amtrak for a memorable trip last year. It was great to slow down and enjoy the journey. If you've never done it, take a train ride. You will love it. And after our credits, keep listening. We've added Bob's list of train routes in the United States. It's a long list, okay? And Bob knew it all by heart, so we just let him talk. And then keep listening for a musical treat. 2 of our favorite nostalgic train tunes that'll have you singing along and will get your toes a-tappin'. The Giles Files was created by Nancy Giles and Nancy Wyatt, produced, directed, and edited by Nancy Wyatt, and recorded at our studios in Weehawken, New Jersey. Be sure to check out the Giles Files on iTunes or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And write us a review. Tell us what you think. We want to hear from you. We'll be back next week with another episode of the Giles Files, okay?
There are two trains from New York to Miami. One is the Silver Meteor. The other one is the Silver Star. The Crescent goes from New York to New Orleans. The Cardinal and the Lakeshore Limited go from New York to Chicago. The Texas Eagle is Chicago to San Antonio with through cars to Los Angeles. On the Sunset Limited, which goes from New Orleans to San Antonio to Los Angeles. The Southwest Chief, Chicago, Kansas City, Albuquerque, Los Angeles. California Zephyr, Chicago to Omaha, Denver, Salt Lake City, and it ends at Emeryville, California, right across from San Francisco. And then there's the Empire Builder from Chicago to St. Paul, Glacier Park, Havre, Montana, Spokane, and then it splits from Spokane. One section goes to Seattle, the other goes to Portland, Oregon, and then the Seattle to Los Angeles trains, the Coast Starlight. Those are all of the long distance trains. There's also the Palmetto, which is a daytime train from New York to Savannah, Georgia.
There's a little hotel called the Shady Rest at the Junction.
Petticoat Junction.
It is run by Kate. Come and be her guest at the Junction.
Petticoat Junction.
And that's Uncle Joe. He's a moving kind of slow at the Junction. Petticoat Junction.
Once upon a time there was an engineer. Choo-choo Charlie was his name, we hear. He had an engine and he sure had fun. He used good and plenty candy to make his train run.
Charlie says, love my good and plenty. Charlie says, really rings the bell. Charlie says, love my good and plenty. Don't know any other candy that I love so well.
Happy travels.
A Huda Media Production.